You are tuned in to another edition of Americana Music Profiles, brought to you by Americana Rhythm Music Magazine and AmericanaMusicMagazine.com. I'm your host, Greg Tutwiler. Let's jump right in to the next exciting interview. Cary Morin is a singer-songwriter from northern Colorado. Born in Billings, Montana, Cary is also a Crow tribal member. Cary has won many awards for his music, including a 2013 Lifetime Achievement Award from the Fort Collins Music Association. He joins me on this latest edition of Americana Music Profiles to talk about his music and latest CD, When I Rise. Hi, Cary. Welcome to the podcast this morning.
Hi, Greg. Thanks.
Good to have you. So
yeah, it's good to be here.
Yeah, you were telling me off air that you guys had just gotten in off the road here yesterday.
Yeah, I did just one show way up in Cody, Wyoming, and
okay,
never been up there before. It was a nice drive.
And you guys are currently in Colorado, is that correct?
Yeah, we live in Fort Collins.
Okay, all right. Well, for the folks who maybe don't know you yet, give me a little bit of background and how you got started in music and on this career path that you're on.
Yeah, it's a long road. I started playing guitar as a kid. I was interested in folk music and rock music and bluegrass music growing up in Montana. And, I just started playing that acoustic stuff, and when I was out of high school, I moved to the Front Range of Colorado and did some more of that, and then I started playing electric in bands, and I did that for a lot of years. And then in the last 10 years or so, I've been getting back into different variations of playing acoustic music, and it's really been my focus, especially for the last 7 years.
How far outside of the Colorado area do you tour when you go out?
Well, we try to kind of came up with a plan when I started working with my wife about 7 years ago, and she eventually put together her own little kind of boutique shop, and
cool.
She has at this point 4 other artists, but back in those days our plan was to just try and open one market at a time, come home and play around Colorado, try and make at least one record a year, and then just go back and continually open up new markets. So we've been playing a lot in the South, started to open things up on the East Coast now and the West Coast. We just did the month of October in Germany, Italy, and France.
Oh, cool.
And that was our third trip there for me as a solo artist. And we'll just continue to try and open up those markets and keep track of the ones that we already have getting stronger.
Yeah. And did I read correctly that you are also have Native American heritage in your background?
I do.
Yeah.
I do. My family is from around the Billings, Montana area, and I'm enrolled with the Crow tribe.
Okay.
Up there.
Do you play in that community musically?
Well, I used to when I had a band. We used to go up there and do shows from time to time. But the Montana area isn't really one of the markets that is real strong for solo,
okay.
At least for what I do,
yeah.
Solo-wise. So I hope to get back to it at some point. But yeah, right now we're really focusing on other areas that where solo acoustic
right.
music goes over a little better.
Sure, yeah. I think I also was reading that you spent some time studying the Alan Lomax recordings, and tell me how that has influenced your music recently.
Well, yeah, I guess my songwriting has kind of changed over the years, and after we did the last album last year's, which was Cradle to the Grave, we did some tours, and then Celeste created a big space on my calendar to come home and start working on a new release.
Okay.
And the way that I started that was just trying to, first off, listen to all sorts of music that I'm interested in. And when we're on the road, a lot of times I don't have access to it, or don't have time just to sit down and listen to stuff. We were in Italy, I think 3 years ago, and some of the guys that we were doing shows with, we were driving around, and they were listening to that Lomax collection, and it was the first time I'd ever heard it. Well, I'd heard it in movies and stuff, but didn't realize what it was, and so I just was thinking back on that time in Italy, and went and found it myself, and started listening to the melodies and the recordings are just really fascinating.
Yeah.
So from that, I was listening to other styles of music, old jazz and old blues, and just started writing songs, and that's how this new album was born.
When you were working on that, did you were the songs kind of standalone songs, or did you have conceptually some sort of theme running through the collection that you put together for this record?
Well, I'd say standalone is probably a good description there. Subject-wise, some of them are kind of abstract, and some of them are easier to pin down what the content is. We had a different idea in mind for this release, because the last three that I did have really been focused on sort of a singer-songwriter presentation, so solo guitar and vocals. Really nothing else added. Every once in a while I'd throw some pedal steel in, or we have this friend in France, J.J. Milto, he played some harmonica on a couple of songs, but for the most part it was pretty much solo. And we, in trying to get away from that and make this release at least a little bit different, we decided to include some band tracks and use a producer for that, which is really the first time that I've ever done that. And so a lot of those songs were written with that in mind. I didn't write the songs with this solo presentation in mind. It was more of a intentionally writing with a band in mind.
Okay.
So, and that's not really that different for me, because I did that for 20 years, before I started doing solo shows again. But that's what we ended up with. That half the album is my familiar approach with the solo songwriter thing, and then the other half is band.
Now, when you say writing with band in mind, are you in your mind imagining the other instruments playing along, or do you actually you try to fill in those different parts yourself to kind of get that full feeling when you're putting the song together?
Yeah, when I say that, I think about rhythm and the way I would play guitar with a trio or with a four-piece is different than what I would do,
right?
As a solo guy. And the difference would be that the parts are more defined. When I play solo, I tend to just kind of come up with things on the spot.
Right.
Sometimes there would be more improvisation in that situation than there would be with a band.
And we're talking about the new record, When I Rise, and it came out late October, right?
Correct.
So have you had a chance, have you been playing that music out, or are you preparing to head out with this now that it's out, or how is that working for you?
Excuse me. I've been playing some of the songs. I'm going to debut about 5 more of the songs. This Friday, we're going to have a show here in Fort Collins, and then at that point, I'll start playing these songs out more often. I've done a few of them a couple of times, but at this point, it's kind of funny when I make an album and it comes out. A lot of times, I have to go back and listen to it and figure out what the heck I did, and sometimes it can be a stressful situation trying to get these songs in front of people and relearn the songs and figure out, how to play it in front of an audience as opposed to just sitting on the couch.
Yeah. That's interesting. Well, you have a collection of musicians with you playing some of these that you put together as a full band?
Yeah. Well, it was recorded. It was produced by Kim Stone. And Kim Stone was I believe the original bass player for Spyro Gyra.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and he had several Grammy nominations with that band, and with he played with Rare Silk and the Rippingtons, and then a whole host of other acts. He lives around here, and I've known him for a couple of decades. And I asked him if he'd be interested in helping, and so he did. He agreed to help me put together a crew of people, and we're really happy with the way it turned out.
And we've mentioned, or you've mentioned a couple times, jazz and jazz influences, and I believe he was Spyro Gyra was very heavily jazz kind of themed music. How did that become something for you that it on the spectrum? It seems kind of at the other end when you say folk music, and then reach back into the jazz feel.
Well, Kim is actually he's playing with a couple of different bands around Colorado right now, and they're all kind of blues based. I think that he does do a jazz trio around the area from time to time, but he's more focused on the blues stuff. And I've been thinking about that, the influence of jazz in my life, and I can narrow it down to a couple of things. For one thing, I was a big fan of Spyro Gyra in the '80s. As a child, I was a big fan of Pat Metheny, and really kept up on all the different phases that he's gone
Yeah.
through in his career